This episode features my old boy, Tyler Joe Miller. I got a chance to see Tyler perform last year, had a chance to meet him, an amazing guy, an amazing performer, and his music hits. He has released 8 songs in Canadian country radio. All have been top 10s, including his first 2, which went back-to-back #1, the only independent label to ever do it. We talked to him about music. We talked to him about balancing music on the come-up along with the trades, and how did he make things work. This episode is a can't miss. Man, you hear that? Look at here. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to have a party. I'm talking good on barbecue. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Old Boy Podcast. I'm excited to have my buddy Tyler Joe Miller with us. Tyler Joe Miller, a country musician that happens to be in Canada. Also, his last 8 songs, 8 consecutive top 10s in Canada country radio. Also, the only independent artist to ever launch with back-to-back #1 hits. Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
It's a hell of an intro. That makes me sound good.
Man, you know, I got to take care of my old boys. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But
I'm doing great, man.
Julie and I, yeah, dude, that's awesome. So Julie and I had the opportunity to meet you last year in Canada with our buddy Matty McMasters from Vintage Fireplace and Stove. Shout out to the whole McMasters family. Dude, that was a cool event, like middle of a fucking cornfield. You know, we had smokers going, you guys playing, like that. That was a cool little venue.
It was incredible, man. It was their first time. That was River Breeze Farm. It was their first time having music at that event.
Yeah.
And they did it. They did it perfectly. Like there's nothing that they did wrong. And I mean, the only thing they probably did wrong was give me and my band golf carts. Because we rode around those things in they had like 3,000 acres of cornfield or whatever. We were riding those things, piss drunk till like 4 a.m.
and just seeing how durable those golf carts were, oh boy.
More durable than us, that's for sure.
Dude, I love it. But one thing that was cool about that opportunity was getting to see you perform. You know, it's one thing to listen to people's music, enjoy their music, but like seeing the performance, like you're very good at getting the crowd involved. Like you're definitely living in the moment. I really enjoy your live performances.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's funny enough because my whole band, or at least most of us, grew up playing together like at church. And so I think like you're always getting the congregation involved. Like that's what you do every damn Sunday. And you know, we played for a mega church we were playing for thousands of people every single Sunday. And so once I moved over to country music, I was like, hey, you guys want to go have more fun, drink more, and and play country music instead? You know, not get in trouble for it anymore. But exactly, everybody's hand was up. But so I think we've got that aspect just kind of built into what we do musically, where it's like you want the crowd involved. It still feels like a congregation to us, just one that's a bit more rowdy.
And a little less dressed.
A little less dressed, yeah.
But no, you know, I always tell people, you know, when you're starting to become an expert or a subject matter expert in your field, it all comes down to reps, right? Like how many reps have you had? And with you guys cutting your teeth, playing those larger, you know, mega church crowds, I mean, then boom, it's just like, okay, well, it's not this beautiful sanctuary, it's a cornfield. Let's go. But it's still a stage and there's still people out there. Let's rock and roll.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where did dialing back a little bit and kind of getting into some of the early days, like where did your passion for music come from, TJ?
Oh man, it's funny because my passion used to be I wanted to be an actor. Like that was what I wanted to be growing up. I was going to be in Hollywood. Like that was it. I think I really like bullshitting. So I think I was like, this is a good profession. No, but through high school, that was kind of what I did was acting for the most part.
Were you drama club, bro?
I was
Were you in the drama club?
I was a drama
present?
kid.
Oh, shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, right.
There was a year that the teacher didn't put, like, we would put on like plays every year, I guess. And there's a year that our teacher was just, I think she had a mental breakdown, and she's like, we're not doing a play. Like, I'm not even thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, what if I wrote one? And like, if I wrote one and gave you scripts and everything, like, if it's good enough, can we do it? And she's like, sure. But she thought I was bullshitting. And so I think it was like the next week I came to her. It's like, here's my play. And it was basically like Super Bad meets like Hot Tub Time Machine or whatever that movie was. It was so dumb, so stupid.
You were making stoner movies in high school. That's awesome.
I was, and we pulled it off. But my love for music started with I'd started actually going to church. I didn't grow up going to church, but my buddy invited me out one weekend that I was staying over at his place, and I was like, I don't know what this church thing is, but I'll go check it out. And it was pretty boring to me, but the girls were cute, so I was like, I could stick around here for a little bit. But started going to
target rich environment.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, the Sunday church thing isn't really my thing, but like, you know, there's this youth group thing going on, and I'd started going there, and I was very extroverted, and somebody there was like, hey, do you know how to play guitar? And I was like, I know Zeppelin and Metallica. And they're like, okay, good enough. Do you know how to sing? And I was like, I have no clue. Never really tried. And they're like, all right, here's some CDs. Learn how to play these songs, and you're our new like music leader here at youth group. And I was like, okay, but I still drink a lot. I was like 15, and I was like just getting into my drinking stuff, and it was like, I don't know if you want me there on Sundays. But that's kind of how I got my start on music. And then you know, I stuck with that for a long time. So I was doing church music for a while, and then it turned into a job eventually for a little bit. And then I got tired of the bullshit, so I decided to go back to contracting. But yeah, and then there was me and my band. I had a band in my early 20s, and we were kind of like alternative rock sort of thing. We're doing some great stuff in Vancouver here. We're selling out shows every single time we were playing almost, and so that was super fun. And then I just kind of wrote myself out of that genre. Like, it wasn't really me anymore. I was growing up, and I was kind of just losing it a bit. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in this anymore. And so stopped doing that for a long time. And then I ended up starting a nonprofit. And so we do building projects down in Guatemala, and we partner with an organization down there called Hope of Life International. And these guys are heroes, like just doing incredible stuff 365, 24/7. And it was actually down there that some guy heard me playing my guitar. I'll never forget. His name was Willie Woo. And he came out in the morning and was like, was that you playing your guitar on the porch last night? And I was like, oh yeah, sorry, did I keep you up? And he's like, no, like, that was incredible. Like, were those your songs? And I was like, yeah, those are mine. And he's like, I don't know that you do country music professionally. And I was like, whoa, I don't. I was just trying to impress that girl that was out there with me. But yeah, and he was like, well, you should be doing that professionally. Like, your songs were great. Like, I was listening to all of them, and I was like, you know, that's a very tough thing to do. That's such a big dream. Like, you know, get a record deal and all this stuff. It's like, that's the dream. That's the pinnacle of, you know, making it in music. And I was like, I don't know. That's a big dream that I don't know if I want to fail sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was like, why even chase after it? And then I was kind of like, I'm enjoying just like helping people. Like, that's my passion, is people over music. But sure. So I was like, I'm happy just doing this nonprofit thing. We do building projects, baby rescues for kids that are malnourished, you know, get proper water systems into villages and stuff. And So I was like, I'm happy doing that, and happy doing contracting that allows me to own my time, give more money to this sort of thing as well. And so I was like, I'm happy doing that. And he was like, well, if you want to help people, what if you built a platform for yourself in music to where people not only want to hear what you have to sing, but what you have to say, and then you use that platform to help more people. And I was like,
man.
Shit, Willy Woo. I was like, okay.
You done blow my mind, old boy.
Yeah. And so I was like, hell, I might as well give it a shot. So I put my name out there just for, playing for other people. And I ended up becoming just like a backup guitarist. I'd play like banjo and mandolin sometimes. I knew a little bit, enough to fake it. And yeah, I was just like the background singer and guitarist for other artists for a couple of years. And then I ended up putting out a cover video with a friend of mine that I was playing a couple gigs for. And she was like, hey, do you want to do this like duet? And it was a duet of Ed Sheeran and Beyonce. So like not country at all, but it's their song Perfect. And I was like, yeah, it's a great song. Like your voice would kill it. I'd love to do it with you. And so we put it out just like on, I think it was only on Facebook. Like, I don't even know if it even ever made it to YouTube or anything. And it was before all the TikTok stuff. And all of a sudden I get an email from a record label and they're like, hey, we saw this video of you. It's been sent to us a few times and we really love your voice. Like, do you write your own songs? Do you want to be doing your own solo thing? All this stuff. And I was like, first of all, I know what record label you are. Like, I've snuck into your parties at the Canadian Country Music Awards. I just didn't have an invite. So, and I was like, yeah, I do want to do my own solo thing. Like, that's kind of the plan. Here's some songs that I've written. And so they ended up kind of offering me like a development deal, which is like within the next 5 years, we'll get songs out to radio and whatever. And then they listened to my songs. And then one of their guys came to see me play a show because I got asked to play, like, my first show was opening up for another artist in town. And he came and saw us play. And then I think it was like the next day we went up for lunch and they're like, yeah, we're really interested in this. And then I was 60 feet up on a boom lift painting townhomes and replacing fascia boards. And I got the call from the record label going, hey, we want to offer you just a straight up record deal. Like, we think that you got it to do it right now. And I was like, let me get down from this lift and get in my truck so I can have a proper conversation. But yeah, so that's kind of how, that's the long story of how things kind of started. But there was like the passion for music and just mostly just to try to get girls. Didn't really work, but yeah. And then like kind of the journey of how it actually started happening for me. And it's nuts, man. Like we put my first song out at the 3 months before COVID hit. Shitty time to start putting out new music as a new artist. that actually it's funny and just kind of gathering my thoughts for our discussion. That was one of the things. Actually, it says right here, how bad does it suck when your song launches 3 months before COVID, goes to number one, and you can't really fucking monetize it? That's exactly what it says. Exactly, man. It was the weirdest thing because we put the song out and it started blowing up. And we were like, holy shit. Like, my face wasn't even on the graphic. Nobody knew what I looked like. I was just this this ghost artist, Tyler Joe Miller.
Just this beautiful voice ringing in my ears.
Just my sweet, sweet rasp. And yeah, so we put the song out and it's blowing up and like it's reaching like top 20. And so my label is going, hey, we need a music video for this. And like, this is the only week that we can make this happen. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be in Guatemala that week. Like we've raised a bunch of money for these building projects. And they're like, well, it's either music video or Guatemala. And I was like, oh, easy. No music video. And so I flew to Guatemala. And still to this day, my first number one song, first song out, still don't have a music video for it. It was worth it, man. If I started giving that stuff up for the things that I'm passionate about, like I'm gonna lose the passion for everything I'm doing.
Well, but then look at it. Let's go back to Mr. Woo, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you love doing this. Why not make music just a platform for you to be able to reach more people for this work? So if you start putting music in front of that work, you've defeated the purpose of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of times too where, like our radio guy for that label, I'm not with the label anymore, but when I was with them, our radio guy Dale he's a just beauty of a person. Loves music more than anybody that I know, and but he's trying to do his job and trying to try to build up the artist and go, well, this is what this artist is doing, and this is how this artist stands out, and all that stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff that he would be like, hey, are you okay with me sharing this about Guatemala? And sometimes I'd say yes, but there's a lot of times I'd say no, because I was like in my brain, I've made it very clear. It's music for Guatemala, not Guatemala for music. I'm not gonna, lack of a better word, whore out nonprofit stuff to try to, build more clout for me in the music industry.
You're not going to pander. You want people to fall in love with you and your music, and then once they're in the family, happy to share with you what I'm doing.
Totally.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's also why we don't just like reach out and be like, hey, give us money for this nonprofit and stuff. Like right now, nobody can find out anything about our nonprofit because we don't have anything online at the moment. Like we started building it out online during COVID or before COVID, and then COVID hit. Our guy that was building it up ended up having a couple kids, and just life gets in the way. And so, but our thing was like, well, let's not worry about doing that and getting everything online right now. Like, let's build our resume of the things that we're doing. Let's get our boots on the ground, get our hands dirty, and just do the work. And then it's going to roll itself out, and people are going to want to give and be a part of it and whatever. But, we just didn't want to feel like this Kickstarter thing that it's like, hey, we haven't done any work yet, but if you give, then we can do a bunch of the stuff. It's like, no, we want you to be a part of what we're already doing.
I love that, and I love hearing the passion you've got for it, and I think that's the right way to do it too. Kind of, hey, let's show people what we can do as we start to grow. We've all got networks of people that we can reach out to before, to bring in and be a part of it before we got to really go out to the masses.
Totally, absolutely. And I was actually
awesome.
I was in Guatemala when we got told hey, there's this COVID thing going on. Everybody has to come home. We're like, what the hell? So we get on the plane, people are starting to wear masks and stuff. And we're like, what the hell is going on? But then we put out the first song before that. And so things are going well. And then all of a sudden it's just like everything shuts down. The world's done. Tiger King's on Netflix. And it's just, the rest was history.
Which, by the way, I got so sucked into that dark hole.
Oh man,
that Tiger King. Oh, bro, I was head and feet first. I was all in it.
Oh, me too. I was I was calling myself Tyler Joe Exotic.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm sure probably about the time that COVID sank in, you're kind of like, fuck, why didn't I just stay in Guatemala?
Yeah.
Especially that damn tyrant y'all got up there, Trudeau. Jesus, Pete. I mean, the only thing that I think helped keep my sanity with COVID was being in Florida and Ron DeSantis pretty much being like, nah, fuck it, we're keeping this state open. You know what I mean? Hey,
open
we had some shit happen. Yeah, we had some shit happen, but we feel like we'll be all right. But some of those places, man, especially where you're at in your career at that point, dude, you're on cloud nine. And the thing is, with timing wise too, you're like, okay, I got this number one. It's going into March. People are going to start filling up their concert, their openers, and what does tours look like and what do festivals look like. I mean, I don't think most people understand, but that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but just from knowing enough of you guys, that whole January to March-ish, even into early April, depending on, who's starting their tours when, That's when you find out all the opening opportunities. That's when you find out co-headlining opportunities, festival schedules. So you're probably a little jacked up thinking like, got this number one, going to have some opportunities. And it's like, oh, there's going to be no fucking touring season.
Yeah. I'm getting told all this stuff that like, even when I got told that I had number one, the story for that, I don't know if I've told you that. It's crazy because the song was flying up the charts. Mm-hmm. And we ended up, there's another band in Canada that I think they had missed their number one like the week before by like 4 spins, like 4 more times the song had to be played on radio. And I was like, wow, like I don't want that to happen to me. And their buddies of mine. And I was like, I don't want that. And I ended up getting the call that we missed by 1 spin. And it was so like one more station had to play the song one more time. That was it. And
you know too, like some fucking station played it at like 12:01 or 12:02. You know, and that's all you would have needed, bro.
Yeah, I know. And so we're like, oh my God, this is like fucking sucks. And so it was like, hey, and I'm going to like, the team's kind of getting all crazy about it. And I was like, guys, we got a number 2 on my first song out ever. Like to get a top 20 was crazy. And so I'm stoked about it. You get a bit bummed. And then I'd lost by 1 spin to Luke Combs and Eric Church with their song Does to Me. And I was like, okay, well, how was I even supposed to come close to Luke Combs and Eric Church? And we ended up finding out, I think it was like the next day, I get a call from one of the managers and he's like, hey, you got to get on a Zoom call right now. And I was like, oh, I can't. I'm spraying a ceiling. I can't let it dry. And he's like, no, you got to get on this call. And I was like, no, you're not hearing me. I can't let the ceiling dry halfway. I got to keep spraying. And he's like, get on the call. And I was like, all right, there's something going on, whatever. And so I get on the Zoom call and I'm covered in paint, just covered. And they're like, hey, buddy, you know how we, believe that we missed the number one by 1 spin? And I was like, yeah, how could I forget? And they're like, there's actually a station that you sang the full song of Pillow Talkin' live on the air, which counts as a spin, but the billboards or the country charts didn't include that. So this little station in Saskatchewan calls the billboards or the media base, whatever it was, and they're like, hey, did you guys count the spin? And they look through the records, they're like, we didn't. So I ended up tying with Luke Combs for the number 1 spot. But then when it's a tiebreaker, it goes to whoever had the most increased spins that week. And so I had the most increased spins, so they gave me the number 1. But it was like such a crazy, like 2 days where it was just like, oh, that's like wild. We think we lost it. But like also the country charts are republishing charts. Like that doesn't seem like that happens. Like, so it was just a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. But I'm in my office and I've got our like plaques and stuff. And the coolest thing is that on that one, I had to beat out Luke Combs in Canada. And obviously like Canadian radio is trying to support Canadian country artists. And yeah,
sure.
Luke Combs, if I was a Canadian country artist, that would be, I don't think I would be tying him for first spot. But on the charts for Pillow Talkin', I had to beat out Luke Combs and we got the number 1 spot. And then my second song that I put out, I'll Be Over Me Too, I had to beat out Morgan Wallen for the top spot. And so it's like,
just like slaying, the two masters. Yeah. 2 biggest dudes in the industry.
And so it wasn't an easy thing. It takes a lot of work and a lot of people to make that happen. But it was a cool accomplishment for me going, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe I won't be painting and whatever for the rest of my life.
in that second one, correct me if I'm wrong, was that the first one that you had wrote that went number 1?
Yeah, that was.
Or you wrote, yeah.
Which
now that first number 1, that's just a cool story. So that's tough to beat. But that second one being one that you wrote, did it have a little specialer feeling to it, or it's just as fucking cool?
It the first one was shocking because like for me too, I'm going like like I don't really understand the charts and the number, like all the stuff going on. Like I'm just trying to do music that I love, you know? Like that's my main objective.
You've got other people can look at that shit. Just let me do my thing.
Exactly. And so that one just shocked me where it was like, wait, what the hell did we just do? Like it was crazy. And I don't know if it ever really sunk in because like all the interviews after, people are like, this is the craziest thing. This never happens. You're the first of its kind sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, but I'm still painting houses and swinging a hammer right now. So I don't know. It couldn't have been that good. But yeah, when we put out I'll Be Over Me Too, like I was a songwriter before I was an artist. And so for me, that was a huge thing where it was like, this is my baby, you know, something that I'd written. And just the fact, like hearing something that I'd written on the radio was really cool. For it to go number one was just mind boggling and the coolest thing. And there's a lot of people I know that, you know, their a dream is still to have a number one song that they wrote, because there's a lot of people that'll get them that they don't write them. It was definitely a really cool moment for me that, you know, something that I'd created got top spot. So pretty damn cool.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And then it's like off to the races from there. I mean, you know, obviously you're still throttled a little bit back because of when were you able to go out and start doing shows kind of post COVID?
It was, I think 2021, things opened for like 5 minutes in Canada. And so there's a couple festivals that had us in. And like one of them is actually Burl's Creek, which is in Barrie, Ontario. And Burl's Creek is the grounds that Boots and Hearts does their festival on. And Boots is one of the biggest festivals in Canada, if not the biggest. And the company that owns Boots is actually my management company now. So it was a cool full circle moment for me of going like, you guys are one of the first shows that I got to finally actually go do. And then things shut down. It was Calgary Stampede was the very first show that I played, which was crazy.
Dude, that's the way to, that's a place to come out of the gates at.
Yeah. We didn't tell them that was our first show until after. And, cause it went well, but yeah, it was Stampede and Boots is like COVID type, like they had to cap it out at like 5,000 people, I think. Because COVID doesn't touch anything over 5,000, but
no. As long as you keep, as long as you keep it under that, man, everybody's safe. Nobody gets shit. Once you go to 5,001, all hell breaks loose.
Oh man, just funny rules, funny. But yeah, so we had done those and a couple smaller shows as well, and then things shut down again until like the next year, and so. It wasn't until like 2022 at some point that we got to finally start playing shows again and things open up. But it sucked because you would book a whole summer of shows and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's all wiped away and just everything shut down, like deposits that are coming in and all that. Like it just messed everything up for everybody. And so, so I just kept painting and just kept doing my contracting stuff. But once things opened up, we were doing it for a bit. And then there's a certain point that I kind of went, we had the Canadian Country Music Awards. I was up for this Sirius XM and CCMAs they do a competition called Top of the Country. And I was in it. And it was this weird thing where like, I'm in this competition, but over the time I ended up having 2 number ones and, you know, a couple more like top 10s and stuff. And it was like, all right, interesting. And then I ended up winning the competition. But my plan was if I win this, there's like a cash prize. It was like 25 grand or something like that. And so it was like, if I can use this money and replace the income that I'm doing in contracting, I'll start doing this thing full time because I didn't want to do the starving musician thing. That didn't interest me. I wanted to be able to, provide for myself and a family and stuff. And so I ended up winning that. And then after that, it was, the money for like royalties and stuff started coming in, and things were being recouped back to the label. So I started getting, sales and all that stuff. And it ended up replacing that income that I was doing for contracting. So I was like, well, time to make the switch finally. And then we were off to the races, and it was, okay, now you're doing this full time. Here's all the stuff you got to go do and all the traveling and down to Nashville all the time.
Appearances.
Which isn't the worst. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Proud sponsor of the show, Trollco Clothing. Love what the brand's about. It's all about supporting that blue collar worker. You know them for their trademark shirt and hat, dirty hands, clean money. It's not just a slogan, it is a lifestyle. Go visit trollcoclothing.com and use my discount code OldBoyPodcast for 15% off. If we can go back there for a second, you brought something up that I feel like a lot of people that consume music don't understand. And once again, just being friends with a bunch of musicians, I've been able to kind of understand it because, just seeing what you guys go through. But that's like you had talked about. We're talking about a number one hit that came out, right before COVID, and yes, COVID happened, but another one backed up in June of 2020. But still, you not able to start seeing and realizing, real money towards the end of 21 and 22. And you brought up a thing there where I think a lot of people don't get is that label has invested money in you. So if that label's invested $50,000 in you, that $50,000 has to come back to them before you really start seeing your portion of whatever you guys have agreed on. And that's where sometimes you'll hear, you're still in the business, so I don't expect you to comment on this, but I'll just speak of it is, you often hear people that either made or broke their careers, not as much on their music, but as much on their deal. They had good music, but they had a terrible deal with the label that just made it to where they couldn't make the money they wanted, which then you'll find turns people off, creativity. People get a bit of a chip on their shoulder of like, I'm doing all this fucking work. You're making all the money. Well, you kind of got into a shitty deal because you got really excited about getting an offer, which is that just slippery ass slope of, fuck, I got an offer. I really, really want this. So, and they know that. But at the same time, having enough trust in yourself to go, I'm not going to sign a shitty deal just because it's the first one. It's the whole label and management. The whole label and management thing is a real maze.
It is. It's tough to navigate. It's an exciting thing when you get an offer and you get, somebody goes, hey, here's this deal that I want to do. We're going to get you on radio. We're going to get you, distribution out to streaming. We're going to do this and this for you. And like a lot of those things can happen, but if you don't have a good deal, you're not going to be making the money fast enough to be able to do this full time. And if you can't do it full time, you're not making enough money to be able to do it ever full time. It is a bit of a slippery slope, and you need more coming in than going out. And a lot of these shows too, like you're paying musician fees, you're paying agent fees, you're paying management, you're paying flights, you're paying like everything. Yeah. And so, but the main thing for me is like I've had people ask me, my advice on, not that any of it's good, but just like music stuff and signing with labels and whatever. And I'm like, honestly, the only advice I'm going to give, get a good lawyer. That's it. Get a good lawyer that is fighting for you. And they're going to seek out the best for you, and it's going to be way better for you in the long run. And luckily I've got just a phenomenal team of lawyers behind me that are just looking out for my best interest. And yeah.
Well, and the beauty in that too is, as you're seeing, as your career is taking off, that's now a relationship you have with a legal team that's not just handling your label and your management, but is also handling, you've got a couple cool partnership deals you're doing right now on the Country Mixtape tour, so you can you can stay in the music business and you can let them be in the business of Tyler Joe Miller. You know what I mean? Obviously you want to approve everything. You only want to work with brands you believe in and stand behind, but like once you said, hey, I would be willing to work with these guys, then you can throw the ball over the fence and say, hey, work with these dudes, and then, we'll get it all ironed out, in agreement, and then, move forward.
Totally. That's the tough part of this business, is that it's business. It's, and like, I've done it with contracting of, if it's contracts or just different deals and stuff. And it's like the business didn't change, just the industry changed, and everybody's looking out for their best interest. That's just how it is. Everybody wants to make another dollar. But yeah, surrounding yourself with a team that, you can make sure that everybody's winning is super important. But it sucks. It sucks that you have to also be a part of the shitty business stuff that's in it. I didn't think that half of my business was going to be dealing with lawyers, but it basically has been at this point, because especially when you're going in and out of deals. Like in October, I had split from my record label and management, and so ended up going to, I'm very grateful for the stuff that we've accomplished. We accomplished a lot of awesome stuff. We've got number ones. We have nothing under top 10 so far. Like, everything's been great, but you hit a ceiling and you hit a point where you go, all right, I want to move forward. I want to move up. Is this a team that I can do this with? And if it's not, you got to look elsewhere. But it's also terrifying. For me, it was like, that's my first label. That's the first people that took a chance on me. This guy that was a carpenter and a painter, not doing it for a living, from Surrey, BC. Like, not a lot of stuff comes out of Surrey. But and so it's like this scary thing where it's like, these people took a chance on me. What if nobody else wants to take a chance on me? I have all these things. I've got these plaques. I've got all the stuff to kind of be like, plead my case. But it's like, what if nobody takes you up on it? And so that was a terrifying thing for me. But you got to just trust your gut. Like, I was in my head too much, where my gut was telling me one thing, my head was telling me something else. And I went with my gut and ended up with just a phenomenal management team with our live management, which is under Republic Live, which owns Boots and Hearts. And they're phenomenal. They're awesome. They had me out this last summer, open up for Tim McGraw at Boots and Hearts. And it was like myself and I don't know, some new guy. I've got to open up for a couple times now. And it's pretty cool. His team's awesome. But it was like myself, Riley Green, Travis Denning, and Tim McGraw were kind of like the main ones that day. And a lot of great other artists too. Did you hit that CrossFit workout with him backstage before you went out? Look at me, dude. Of course I did.
Of course I did. I showed his ass up.
Yeah.
I've never met him. I hear Riley Green's a super good dude.
Yeah.
Did you get to chat with him much? Yeah.
I met him briefly. Yeah. I was in like a different part at Boots and Hearts with my band and with the Dunfords that own Boots and stuff. And we were hanging out, and then this golf cart comes up, and this girl goes, "Hey, are you Tyler Joe Miller?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Tim McGraw's asked for you and like the other acts that played today to come watch him side stage." And I was like, "You sure? Like me?"
Yeah.
Like, okay. And so I went, and there was Travis Denning and Riley Green side stage there. And so ended up meeting both of them. And yeah. and they were just, I met them briefly, but both of them were just great dudes, it seemed like. So just sitting side stage, having a cigar. It's great.
Yeah. And how cool is that of Tim to just be like, "Hey, I want to, thank you guys for being here and being part of the, part of my show. Please come enjoy it." That's because that's something a guy of his caliber doesn't have to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just, even after all those decades and all the number one hits he's had, like to still have that old boy in him to be like, "No, man, thank you guys. Come hang out." Like, that's totally good. Kudos.
Yeah. No, he's definitely one of the people that, like, I grew up listening to Tim. Like that, he's one of the household names in my house growing up. And so it was this crazy thing that I've gotten to open up for him a couple times. And one was in my in British Columbia here, 2 hours north in Merritt, BC, a festival called Rock and River. And I used to be a backup guitarist playing for other artists, playing on the side stage there. And then I got to open up for Tim again there. And he was like myself, Randy Houser, Cam, and Tim were kind of like the ending ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like side stage, and like Tim's just hanging out. He's walking around. He's watching the other bands play. Like his team was just like one of the greatest teams to work with and be around. Like all of them were so nice. There's a lot of people,
awesome.
like the artists can be really great and the teams can be a pain in the ass. Not Tim's
Right.
team. They're awesome. And I was watching Randy Houser side stage, and I said to my lady, I was like, oh, I got to go. Like me and my whole band were watching there with our significant others. I was like, I got to go get a beer. So I went and got a beer, and then while I'm on the pisser, apparently Randy Houser was like, hey, how about that Tyler Joe Miller, huh? Like that guy was really great. I have no clue. I'm taking a leak and grabbing a beer, and I get back and my girlfriend's like, you'll never guess what just happened. I was like, what? Randy Houser just called you out from the stage saying that you did a great job and he's watching. I was like, you're fucking kidding me, right? Like I was taking a piss.
You're like, did anybody have a camera out? Jesus.
Yeah, nobody.
Damn it.
But that was another guy too, that it's like Randy's side stage watching these bands play and calling them out, like, which is the coolest thing in the world. So there's a lot of really good people in country music. That's for sure.
Because we've seen plenty of them that sit in their green room until somebody comes and knocks on it and goes, all right, we're going out in 5. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So when you see guys, and I feel like too, I feel like artists are more loose at festivals than they are just hitting. Like, I feel like tour dates, like, especially once you get into like 4-6 weeks into tour, it's like, it's just robotic, right? Like it's just another city and you've kind of caught your pace. Whereas festivals are like, oh fuck, this is a one-off. Like, you know, like it just brings a little more excitement.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even like I just came off tour and I understand why people kind of beeline it for the door after the show. Like we had 20 shows in 25 days, 5 days off in a month. And it was just like I get it. But also there's ways to accommodate still, meeting your fans and stuff. Like we had done like a VIP experience. Johnsonville sponsored our meet, which is awesome. And you got me the hookup, get me a tailgate Traeger sent over, which was, by the way,
how'd that baby work out for you?
It's awesome. Yeah, it's on a freight coming back to my house right now, actually, because I had to fly home.
Awesome.
But yeah. Such a badass thing to pull out a Traeger from your trailer and start cooking up sausages. Like nobody does that. So thank you so much for that, man. Like that,
dude, happy to do it.
And like the team at Traeger's been awesome with just accommodating anything we needed. And like, it's just been phenomenal. But
happy to help, man.
Yeah, man.
You told me, hey, Chad, I'm going out on tour with a beer sponsor and a sausage sponsor. I'm like, well, you need to fucking grill that old boy. Let's make it happen.
That's right. But yeah, it's we had this VIP experience where it's like before the show, like an hour or something like that, we'll cook up sausages and we'll play a couple songs and all that. And yeah, there's ways to accommodate it on tour, but I see why people are definitely more loose and stuff at festivals. I've had some teams that are not as loose at festivals. But everybody has their bad days. Everybody. So got to learn to give people grace.
Especially when you're on a tour bus half the year at least. You know what I mean? You have to give a little bit of leeway. I'll never judge. And I try to never judge anybody off of one interaction. You know what I mean? Like, if you get an opportunity to put together a series of events, then do that. You know what I mean? But but
absolutely.
No, and it's a unique lifestyle too. So tell me a little bit coming off that tour. How did it go? Did it go as you guys had planned? I know you were pretty excited about it when I talked to you before you headed out.
Yeah, man, it's funny because we had changed the dates like 3 times to try to figure out when the best time was to go on the road. We had changed the name of the tour a couple times. we were getting to a point where we're like, is this happening? Like, are we doing this? But like the team's, working in overdrive, just trying to make it all happen. And, yeah. And then it's funny because you get in the rehearsal studio, and my guitarist, or one of my guitarists, Ryan, has a warehouse and for his business. And so we've set it up as like a rehearsal space as well. So we got to just go drink a bunch of beer, set up the equipment, go over songs, figure out what we wanted to play. Cracked a bunch of my homebrew there too, which is I gotta get you some brew, man. But yeah, and you start building out the show, and it's a bit terrifying because you're like, what if this isn't as good as we're hoping that it is? And then we hit the first show, and we kind of changed the show a little bit as it went on too, because you fine tune things, you cut some songs, you do whatever. But man, it turned out better than we could have imagined. We called it the Country Mixtape Tour, and we didn't really tell people why. But it was basically you didn't know what artist was coming on next. And so like people would be like, hey, what time are you?
Rad.
People would be like, hey, what time are you on? I'm like, I don't know. Like, come for the start of the show. Just don't be late. And like one of the artists would be up, and then all of a sudden the next artist is playing. And then all of a sudden, all three of us artists are singing a cover together, or we're doing a medley. Like we did a Nickelback medley, which is super fun.
Yes.
And then the thing was, we never left the stage. So there's three of us artists doing a triple headlining tour. And if you weren't the one singing, we had a bar at the back of the stage, and you'd be drinking, hanging out, being a part of the party. And so it was a super cool thing where so many people had said all tour, they're like, we've never seen a format like this. Like, this is such a cool thing. Like, you're not just going to a regular concert. You're going, it kind of felt like we were touring a party across Canada.
Yeah.
Which was rough on the liver, man. It was rough on the liver.
Are you detoxing still, old boy?
I'm trying. But, yeah, it's one of those things because like you get your rider of all the alcohol and stuff, and like we had to start upping like the amount that we were getting. And man, I thought I was invincible. I was drinking so much, and you don't think about it because like during the show I'm probably having like, I don't know, 6 beer during our 2-hour set, or just less than 2 hours. Plus, we have a bottle of Jack that we're downing at the same time. And we hit a certain show. It was in the first half of the run. And I thought I had way more to drink the other nights. And we get not even halfway through. And I look at the bottle, and I hold it up, and it's empty. And I looked at Andrew, one of the other artists, and I was like, uh-oh. And he's like, yeah, you've been pouring them strong. And I was like, oh crap. And I don't remember a thing after that. So it's tough because in my mind, I'm going like, people are paying money to come see these shows. I want to be in my best mind, give them my best performance, give them the best everything. Yep. And I wake up in my bunk on the tour bus going, oh my God, what the hell happened? All I remember was puking my guts out in the green room upstairs at the end of the show, and security was like, you gotta go. And like, that's not really like me. Like, I hold my own pretty good. I hold my own pretty good. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like what the hell? And so in my mind, I'm laying in the bunk going, I disappointed everybody. I was like, I didn't come on for Pillow Talkin', my biggest song. I didn't come on for our encore. We did a Brooks and Dunn encore, like all three of us together. Yeah. I didn't do my acoustic set. I was like, I've disappointed everybody. And then I open up my phone, and I'm looking through all these tag videos. I did all those things. I came out. I sang that.
Muscle memory kicked in, baby.
Oh my! And we listened back to the tape, because we recorded every show.
Yeah.
I came back to sing, and before I sang Pillow Talk, and Andrew goes, he says to the crowd in the mic, he goes, I don't know if Tyler Joe's making it back out for his last song here. And then I just showed up like, let's party. I'm good to go.
I got this shit.
But listening to the recording,
yeah,
I was drunk. I was so drunk because I'm going like, I'm stumbling over words. I'm going, I used to be a carpenter. This is my song, Pillow Talk. It's just like, what? Like, I sang a cover of a Brad Paisley song, I'm Gonna Miss Her. And I'm like,
yeah,
like, I'm Brad Paisley. Like, I didn't know who I was. I don't know if I actually said that one, but it was just like, oh man. But we finished the show and it was a party. It was awesome. I just paid the consequences after, that's for sure. But man, you know, there's those road stories and everybody's got one. And holy smokes, that was my night that I learned a valuable lesson.
Proud sponsor of the show, Welder Nation. Man, I will tell you what, if you are looking for apparel that is built for that trade, this is made for the 0.1 percenters. Those folks out there putting apparel to the test, working some of the most dangerous jobs in some of the most dangerous places. The last thing you can have is faulty gear, faulty apparel. Go check out weldernation.com. Feel free to use my discount code OldBoyPodcast for 15% off. Man, that is hilarious. You mentioned Brad Paisley. The one thing I wanted to hit on was, I know some of your influences, you know, just as far as music goes, were him, Kenny Rogers, George Strait. Like, one, man, I'm like a huge Kenny Rogers fan. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but just that voice, the storytelling, you know, the same with Strait. And then as you look at, you know, closer, you know, more recent, but still, you know, a ways back was Alan Jackson. I know you mentioned him too. And that's just another guy that just told a story, had a sound that you hear Alan Jackson's song come on. All three of those guys, you hear one of their songs come on, you know it's theirs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one of those things
so
where
what was it about those guys that kind of helped you form your style? What did you take from them?
Man, honestly, like all those artists and even like the Judds, like I grew up, like we got Judds on cassette, Dixie Chicks. There's a lot of great stuff from all these artists and like they're household names. They're playing all the time in you know, if we're out at my cabin up in northern BC here, or it was mostly out in the Caribou at my cabin, but also at home. Like you hear these artists playing, but then there's certain ones that stick out to you that, you know, something that they're doing just sticks with you. And Brad Paisley it was him and Garth Brooks that were the two artists that I was like, I want to be like these guys. Like there's something about the way that they tell stories. If they wrote it or if they didn't, they're still getting, you know, they're still the ones telling the story. They can do both sides of the spectrum of like, they're so dynamic where Brad Paisley, it's like, man, you've got this whiskey lullaby, you know, this heartbreaking song. And then all of a sudden you're over to like, I'm Still a Guy, or, you know, these like funny songs, or like Me Neither. That's a friggin' one of his funniest songs that I've ever heard. And like, he can do everything in between. And so when an artist makes you feel something and they can bring you in the highs and the lows and all in between in like an album, it's the coolest thing in the world. And so I remember listening to like Time Well Wasted and Mud on the Tires, and they're some of my first albums that I owned, and like I would listen to these things nonstop. And same with Garth Brooks. Like it was just, they would bring you through a journey, and I wanted to do that. Yeah, I grew up like my dad's very much a storyteller, like loves telling stories, and I think I got that part of him. And yeah, it's just a part of me. I want to tell stories. I loved acting for the same reason. I love movies and film and all that stuff for the same reason. And it's like, this was just a way that I could tell my stories. And yeah, so it was cool too. Like I remember writing with my buddy Will Nance, who before I wrote with him, I had people tell me like, he might be one of the most redneck people that you'll ever write with. You know, like I'm from Langley, BC, and we're not that redneck. Yeah. He's truly like Tennessee redneck. Like, and he wrote Brad Paisley's song She's Everything. And he,
Oh, really?
yeah, and he wrote that song on his own. And I guess like I think it was a couple years later, it ended up in Brad Paisley's hands, and he got a call from kind of going, hey, like I know you've written this song like about your wife, and you know, but if I'm cutting the song out, I would like to cater it to you know, my wife and things about her, if you don't mind. And so he got his writing credits and stuff on that. But Will goes, I'll tell you what I told Mr. Paisley. He goes, tell you what, Mr. Paisley, I sure as hell don't want you singing to 18,000 people about my wife. So, or 50,000 people, whatever. He's like, whatever crowd it is, I don't want you singing about my wife. So you write whatever you want in that song. I was like, that's so good.
Oh man, I love that. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
The when you kind of look forward, and I'm going to ask you to educate me on this because I really don't know, but how, you know, you haven't had a song that you know finished out the top 10. You got a lot of steam up there in Canada. Like, is there an opportunity for us to start seeing that spun more in the U.S.? Like, does that happen? Can you be like, is that a path that you and your management are talking about, or is it like, hey, we've got a good thing up here, let's just continue to dominate it? Like, does that discussion happen? Is it easy? Is it hard? I have no clue.
Yeah, it's the goal was always to try to figure out how to get into the US market. I think most Canadians, that's their thought, because the Canadian market is 10% of America's market. And so you can have a lifetime of a career here for sure. But you know, there's definitely more opportunities trying to get US market as well. And you know, if people get the US market, they typically also get Canada's market as well. Like it's kind of like the cooler older brother. I don't know if I should say that, but
got it.
It in a way, you know, and it's just because, you know, Nashville is such a hub for country music. And so it's, you know, I feel like it spreads out everywhere from there. And so it has to spread super far to get up to Canada. So sometimes we can be a little bit behind, but we've also got great ears, especially in radio and stuff up here in Canada that know what's coming next. And yeah, so please keep spinning my shit. But no, but yeah, the idea for sure is US market, but it's such a hard thing for Canadians. So you really need your moment. But for me, the way that I want to do it was through writing. And so I'm in Nashville all the time. You know, I split my time between here and down there. And so there's a lot of people just think I'm living down there, which I feel like I half of them. But yeah, so I work with like a bunch of different, you know, writers and publishers and stuff down there that are just getting me in different rooms and bigger and better rooms. And like the ideal thing would be to get a song cut by an American artist is obviously a goal and stuff for me. And we're close. I had one on hold, which holds happen thousands of times every single day in Nashville. But we had a pretty cool one that I was excited about. We'd written it. It's my song Broken Man. That's actually my latest single out now. And I'd written it with Rita Isbell and Blake Bollinger. And we wrote this one, and within 12 hours of us writing it, it got pitched and put on hold for a U.S. artist that was doing a certain double album. And we were like holds don't happen that fast. At least I was told. And so we were just kind of going nuts. And I don't know if the artist actually heard it, but their label, Warner Music, to be able to, for them to be like, hey, we're putting this on hold for this artist immediately. It was like, snap. I thought that was going to be my break. And then I got humbled. I got humbled very quick by the industry of going, that stuff happens, you know? You know, you don't want to jinx it. You don't want to. I wasn't really telling many people because it was like, sure, this could get let go tomorrow, you know, unless they're in the studio singing the songs, getting it cut and mastered. Until it's mastered, it's not a for sure thing. And so, Yeah, but the idea for sure is, and the team that I'm with now, their idea is to break in the U.S. market, and so our live management is based out of Nashville, and then also partnered with it like in Toronto or Barrie, and yeah. So the plan is for sure to try to make waves, and obviously like the best thing is to move down there.
Yeah.
But it's also tough where you have life back home, and I've got a lot back home that's hard to just move down to Nashville, and at this moment I can't do that. And so like myself and my lady, we've got a foster kid. I haven't talked much about that at all, but it's like we've got a kid that we're looking after, and we love her, and it's one of those things that's like, man, like this is my family and this is my home right now. And so I'll make as many trips as I got to, I'll work my ass off and take as many flights as I have to, and, stay in hotels and Airbnbs and all that stuff. But, you got to do what's best for your family first. But yeah. And then also when I'd left the label, ended up signing with our live management, but also I signed with Sony Music for my radio, and then I signed my own distribution deal with Orchard Music, which is the same under Sony. And so I think all of us are like-minded, going like, we want to make waves in Nashville and in US. And so yeah, that's definitely the plan. It's just trying to make your songs bigger and better and heard. And right now, like the biggest thing is like, it's tough because it's like, unless you have the TikTok numbers, it's hard for people to get behind anything. And I'm not one to be like to, it's tough. I'm not going to dance. Come
on, TJ. You're not going to make some cute fucking skit, man, to prove you're a musician.
Man, I just can't like, yeah, if you've gone through this or you've gone through this, man, here's a song for you. Yeah. It's like, oh man, do you like it or you don't? I just
right.
Yeah,
hey, it's tough. Hey, I'm gonna play it. Form your opinion. Hey, go after it. Yeah. I got a couple more things before I cut you loose. And by the way, dude, I love that you and your girl are have a foster kid, and it speaks volumes about you. Just like earlier in this discussion where we talked about you weren't willing to give up Guatemala for a music video. Same deal. Like, and I'll be the one to tell you as a friend, man, like if Nashville's going to happen, it's going to happen, but staying true to your family, that's always going to frickin' be there. You know what I mean? And and if it's meant to work out, it may be a whole shit ton of flights and a whole bunch of hotel and Airbnb nights, but if it's meant to work out, it's meant to work out. If it doesn't, you still got a family that loves you there back at home, and that's what matters most.
Absolutely does. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man, for sure. Tell me about this homebrew, man. I've been following it on social media. You've been super excited about the process and the end product. Like, tell me how all that started and how that's been.
I mean, I literally have a song called Never Met a Beer I Didn't Like, which is true. Yep. Although Saisons, I'm not a huge fan of Saisons. No, but just shit on certain style of beer. Like, I like the blue collar beer. I can pound back the PBR and the Old Mill and old style pills. Like, love a good like fishing beer and hunting beer.
Yep.
There's a time and place for every kind of beer, And so, sure. But I also really love craft beer, and I've loved it for a long time. And then, my lady, her family is in ownership of a brewery here in Langley, and she works there as well. And that's actually where we met. And I just had a love for beer and craft beer, and started doing some homebrew with a buddy Johnny of mine who does the nonprofit with me as well. Yeah, and so I had this interest in it and started trying to do it in my garage and stuff. And then the master brewer of this brewery, which is called Camp Beer Company, he gave me his old homebrew system and started teaching me and showing me the ropes. And so there's like the saying, like, friends never let friends drink homebrew, because a lot of it sucks. Yeah. But for me, I was like, well, I kind of got like, I'm still learning a lot. Like there's still a ton to learn, and I've had to pour some beer out. That's for sure. Yeah. Like Dave has just taught me the ropes on how to make it not suck and how to make some pretty damn good homebrew. And so I do a bunch of it just in my garage. And so like the first one I made was a peat smoke porter. I also really love Scotch. And so I wanted to have like the peatiness in like a nice dark beer. Peat smoke porter is beautiful. And then I did like a Alpine pale ale where I brewed it with like white pine needles, which was really good, and like some nice West Coast hops in there. Honey smoke porter, and then the latest one that I just did, I switched it up a little bit. I made like a Schwartz beer, which is like a dark lager, just like smokier, and I did it with raspberry and chocolate. And so it's like a raspberry chocolate dark lager. I'm not much of like a fruity beer guy at all, but this is like dessert. Like it is delicious. And so we talked for a long time, myself and Camp Beer, about doing a collaboration. And finally it was like, I've got something to promote, a tour. Yeah. This was happening. Like, why don't we do something here? And so they ended up, like figuring out a certain spot in their schedule that they could, pop me in for. And yeah. And so we wanted to kind of bridge the gap between, the blue collar beer drinkers and the craft beer drinkers, and try to make it something that everybody can agree on. And so we made a West Coast hopped Pilsner. And so it's got like a bit of those hops in it, but it's still kind of, it's got that, dirty Pilsner sort of taste in it, but it tastes clean and good and a bit hoppy, and yeah, it's great. So we wanted to call it like the fishing beer. And so, but also bridging it with music. And so we called it the Hookline Pilsner, which I think is a great name. So
I do.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And I think I would like that because, hardcore IPAs are a little too hoppy for me to have more than maybe one. And I like a good pills, like you said, for riding the lawnmower, fishing. I always told people I drink Natty Light when I drink a lot of beer, because at barbecue contest I could drink 30 of them and still walk around and bullshit, and I just pissed a lot.
Yeah.
But so I love that about pills, but sometimes too you want a little more flavor. So yeah, a hoppy Pilsner sounds good as shit.
Yeah, and it doesn't have as much of that like corn like flavor in it. Like and it's just it's really nice. It's really refreshing.
That's awesome.
It sounds like it's flying off the shelves. So people are digging it. That's for sure. And the can looks super cool too.
Yeah, I saw that on social. The can looks kick-ass. It was well done. Great marketing on that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I'm glad you're enjoying it. And then I wanted to ask you, what is the back end of what's the rest of the year look like for you? I know you've already got one tour under your belt that may have cost you 13% of your liver, but what do we got after that?
Man, it's funny because like we hit a lot of markets across Canada. And when you play shows, you have these like radius clauses where you can't play within a certain distance or within a certain time frame. But all the markets that we hit on the tour, we got offered other markets during the summer. And so we're packed through the summer. I think I'm back down to Nashville in the next like 2 weeks. I think I'm down there and more recording. Got a bunch of more songs that I got to get out. And basically the idea now is that since I've signed my own distribution, it's kind of like as it goes out, like even on the country music charts in Canada, it says like TJM music / Sony music. And it's like, on whatever streaming services, it'll say like Tyler Joe Miller Music Inc. and stuff. And it's like, it's cool because I get to, I get to steer the ship in a way. And so,
and you get to double dip a little bit too, on the financial end. Ain't nothing wrong with that, old son.
Now I'm a fully independent artist, and now you get to make the label the label side of it as well, which isn't a bad thing.
Yes.
But
No.
yeah, it was a good business move for sure, and I thought it was the best position to put myself in. But also, it means that I get to put more music out than I was able to before, and so we've already got a bunch of stuff recorded, but I want to get more. And the idea is to get another, hopefully, EP or an album out by the end of the year. So probably like November or something, or October maybe. But yeah, so back down, more recording, more writes, and then through the summer, just hitting it all across Canada again, and yeah, and then that's all we got so far. I can barely think a day ahead.
You gonna try to leave a little bit of that winter open to get out for hunting season?
Man, that's the tough thing about doing this now, is that I've been touring through most of those seasons. Like it sucks. Yeah. And like even like it's even hard to find a weekend that I can go up to my cabin and go fishing during the summer. You know, like it's tough. But so I'm hoping that this season I'm gonna actually have some time to go up and do that. Hopefully. Good. Yeah. Because I got a lot of meat that I want to put in my freezer.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But hey, if it doesn't work out, that means you're out making money, running the road. So that ain't a bad thing either. It'd be win-win either come hunting season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But man, it's one of those things that I miss getting out there.
I know. It's just when you run really hard, it's like the perfect reset. Just getting out there amongst nature, you know what I mean? In camp, got some buddies, phones get put away, TV never gets, turned on, and you just, you kind of just reset and have a great time and eat good and hunt and fellowship and like, it's an awesome experience.
You just get to unplug. And like the nice thing about my cabin is we've got a meadow like 5 minutes down the road. And that's where all the crown land is. And like, man, you roll in at like 4 a.m. on the ATVs, the guns on the racks, and you roll in, and that area is just so populated with just like some of the best wildlife that we've got. And it's awesome. You just roll in early and you just park your ass there and wait for him to come drink. And but it's nice. It is the nicest thing to not have to think about everything else. Music is a 24/7 job. And so anytime I get to go out on the boat, fishing or hunting, whatever it is, I haven't got to hunt for a long time now, which sucks. Mm-hmm. But I told my lady lately, I want to stock the freezer with some game meat and with some fresh fish. So that's the goal for this year. And I'm going to stick to it. But
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. And then on the way out, man, do you want to hit everybody with the socials and where they can see and find everything at?
Yeah, basically everything's just Tyler Joe Miller. If that's TikTok, if that's Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. If it's got a blue check mark, it's me.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Tyler Joe, I can't thank you enough, buddy. It's been an awesome over an hour discussion, and I knew we were going to have a good time, and I hope you folks enjoyed it just as much as I did. So until the next episode, you guys take care. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Old Boy Podcast. Please subscribe, like, set your notifications, whatever you got to do to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. Also, feel free to go back, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple, get some of the past episodes, check those out, and always feel free to check out our socials, Old Boy Podcast. Thank you so much.